Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. Have you ever taken a legal oath? You know, to hold hand on the Bible, right hand in the air, saying, "So help me God." Well, that kind of oath taking has been a foundational piece of our nation's history. It was so because our founding fathers believed in the God of the Bible and his attitude toward a promise. There were those in our nation who believed that an atheist couldn't be trusted by to be a government official because they wouldn't have that belief and their oath would be immaterial to them. And as Christians, the Bible does tell us that our yes should be yes and our no should be no, and that we shouldn't have to take an oath. And that works in our daily lives. We should be people of such character that those who know us would take us at our word. But that doesn't eliminate the need for public oath of intent, especially in courts of law and regarding our government officials. See, when a government official swears to uphold the Constitution, they are swearing to uphold a Republican form of government. That oath is viable before God and man. They're bound to that oath. And when they govern in any other manner, they violate that oath. So governing for the benefit of the people has kind of been forgotten, even though it is a foundation of our republic. So how might we return government of Florida to governing for we, the people? Good question, Mike. Good morning.
That's a great question, Chuck. And the answer to that question should be very easy, right?
Should
Should just
be.
be a simple reminder. It should be just a simple reminder to the elected officials in this country up and down the ballot. Hey, you guys take an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. So you need to do it. And it should be that simple. It really should. And
Yeah.
I turn the floor back over to you since I think I put that one to bed. It should be very simple. Anything other than that, um, I would call it malfeasance.
There you go. That could help. Malfeasance.
I mean, it's just one way to describe it. There's other ways to describe it, but that works pretty well for me. And they should be removed from office. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. There should be ways to remove people from office when they commit malfeasance, which is any act that is outside of the Constitution of the United States. Their legislative authority. And if you're an executive, keep in mind, Chuck, we always have to keep in mind the three branches of government. Because as you very well know, the legislative branch is different from the executive branch, but the executive branch has responsibilities too.
Yeah, it is a very powerful branch, and obviously,
They are the most power. I mean, you talk about it. Who has the most power? As we pointed out many times over the last, certainly since Donald Trump came on the scene, without the executive branch, you can't actually do anything. You can have a temper tantrum, a hissy fit, but if the executive branch is not willing to carry out the order, judicial branch, then you're pretty much having a temper tantrum, right? The
I
judicial
guess,
branch
yeah.
or the legislative branch has no means of enforcement.
There you go. There you go. Well, this morning we wanted to talk about some activism
Chuck, you're getting a
here.
lot of echoing in your voice there. I just want you to be aware that something happened with your mic and you're echoing badly.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times, Mike.
That's
Sorry about.
better.
Thanks for letting me know too. Um,
Mm,
I've got. I think I got that under control though.
you
So,
do.
the topic of our discussion this morning is prepared to lead.
There you go.
So,
What
where
do you
are
think
we
about
taking
that,
that,
Chuck?
Mr. Levine?
Well, it's interesting to me that so many, and I've made this point really over the last year or so, that we have so many amazing activists pouring time and money resources into what they're doing. And the question is, are we getting sufficient results? And I'm saying to you, like, for example, a fundamental Jewish ideology is that God creates problems to be solved. That is the purpose of problems in the world. Why God allows, that's a big question that a lot of people ask about their faith. Jews, Christians, everybody, hey, why does God allow bad things to happen? Well, God creates problems to be solved. Okay. So for myself personally, I struggle continuously all day, every day on I'm putting effort into it. Where is the result? Okay. So the point is, I would like to see every single person who shows up to any kind of a civic event or meeting at all to have their own personal agenda. What do I want to accomplish? That is the question. So for me personally, to hold myself accountable for that, I define my objectives. And I'll be speaking at the Florida Republican Assembly Lake County chapter meeting this coming Thursday night. And I'm going to bring, I'm bringing my agenda to the meeting so that everyone is crystal clear about what I expect legislatively, Chuck. So checking the box on my list that I am prepared to lead. Okay. So I'm encouraging other people to do the same thing. When I say prepared to lead, this is what I'm talking about. Be ready. Know what you're trying to accomplish. Go through the bullet points, right? What is it that we're shooting for? What's our intent, Chuck?
Sure. And the first point you have to discuss is to know the system. So what do you mean by know
Again,
this?
so it's really interesting. And some organizations do better than others. So, for example, now that you know what you're trying to accomplish, you've organized yourself, you've made a list of your priorities, you've studied, you're able to talk about and support. I was going to use the word defend, but I prefer the word support your objectives. Why is this a good idea? Why should we implement these concepts in the state of Florida, which binds 24 million people, Chuck, plus people who passing through, right? Not just the 24 million people who live here, but people who are passing through are held accountable to our laws. So to change the law in the state of Florida is a really big deal. And the question is, how do you actually do that, right? So in order to change the law, you have to know how the system works, because having a temper tantrum in your closet gets nothing done. And I would suggest that when we go to civic organization meetings and people complain, then we're actually getting nothing done, because the civic organization that we're complaining to does not have the power to give the attendee what the attendee is calling for. And the attendee is typically unprepared. So for example, if you're the chairman of a civic organization and someone's complaining in your meeting, a great question for the attendee is, what exactly would you like to see happen here? What can XYZ civic organization do for you? What would you like for us to do here to address your concern, right? And typically the civic organization in itself does not have the power to do that. So the question becomes, how do you affect change, Chuck? And then you have to, of course, we could take the time to go through and explain all that, but we're on a 30-minute, broadcast here, and we have other things to talk about. But I'm happy to go through and explain to people, where are the mechanisms of change? So when you say know the system, you're really talking about, what are the mechanisms of change now that your ideas are clarified and you know what you want? How do you achieve what you want? And my comment on this particular bullet point is, if you don't know the system, if you don't know where the mechanisms of change are, then again, you're just simply having a temper tantrum, or you're, wishing on a star, Chuck.
Yeah, I guess one of the my pet peeves is when I go to an organization and the goal of that organization is just to complain and to bring speakers in that assure us that we have something to complain about, but we don't have an objective act, something to look forward to doing to resolve the complaint. Complain, complain, complain. It's like clicking the tongue. You feel so much better, but you haven't done anything. So
The way
yeah,
to build your civic organization, Chuck, is agree with people who are complaining, and more people will come to your meeting and complain.
I think that's probably
It's true.
I think that's probably happening, quite frankly, in a lot of our meetings. But
Well, people use it, right? Leaders of these organizations, their number one goal is to grow the population of their organization. Ask anybody, right? What does the FRA want? More members. What does the RLC want? More members. What does the American Patriot Executive Committee want? More members, right? They all want the same thing. So how do you get that? Oh, you just tell people what they want to hear, right?
well,
Gets absolutely nothing done. Okay. On the best day is that you coalesce a group of like-minded people. But I'm going to suggest right now, Chuck, if you actually want to affect change, you have to talk to people who disagree with you. This was the beauty of Charlie Kirk, right? Sitting on college campuses with a t-shirt on that says, "Prove me wrong." That, and that's another story we should cover at some point, because I think some people are covering Turning Point USA and some aren't. And I don't have all this inside scoop on it, but I do know a little bit about it. And I'm saying to you that if you want to affect change, you have to talk to people who disagree with you, because everybody else is already on board, Chuck.
yeah, and that's obviously why certain organizations are doing everything they can to throw out people who disagree with them. They don't want to talk to us. They want to shove things down our throat. Um, yeah, well, each organization should have
Oh, and
some.
by the way, Chuck, let me just say this at this juncture right now. I mean, if you're an evangelist, bring people to your civic meeting who disagree with you, because I have news for you, Chuck. I know that I'm preaching. Actually, I'm doing the preaching here instead of you, which is atypical. But if you want to convert someone to faith, the truth prevails. So bring them in the room. Okay. Maybe they will come to the truth, and maybe you will.
Never can tell.
Right? Yeah. Depends on, who is most aligned with God from my point of view.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's move on to our next point, Mike. Understanding available resources. So, what say you, Mike?
Again, that's another interesting subject, right? Understand available resources. So, first of all, we have to commit to the previous bullet points, right? That we are going to be very intentional about what we want. And we're going to know how to get, what institution, because that's what we're dealing with here, Chuck. Again, I mean, if you go back to the biblical side of it, Chuck, it's principalities. What principalities are in charge, right? So then what resources do I have in order to successfully persuade? Because if you have people who disagree or are not aligned, there has to be a little persuasion going on here, right? It could be on a good day, you have people with good intentions, and all you have to do is enlighten them. Okay. On the other hand, there are some people who are completely antithetical to whatever point of view someone holds, and that person has to be done a 180-degree turn, and they've got to bring them around. So how do you actually do that? And it takes resources, Chuck. So for me personally, I have found that for every person on the street who ever goes to a civic organization meeting, something very simple to do, which I have done for decades, and that's just document my point of view. So how many times, Chuck, have I gone into a Republican Executive Committee meeting with handouts for everyone in the room on my point of view on an issue? And I'm telling you that I can't go to a Republican Executive Committee meeting where there is consequential debate happening and not walk into the room prepared to document my point of view, including the rationale for why we should do this. So that's something that I do. Okay, I have a thing as we were talking off air, Chuck. I don't want to tell someone to do something that I wouldn't do or haven't done, right? So for me, like I do that all the time. When I represented Lake County at the Republican Party of Florida, I went to quarterly meetings with a document stating what I wanted to get done in that meeting. And when I go to Lake County Republican Executive Committee meetings and there's consequential stuff on the agenda, I write it down, carry it into the room until we were prohibited from doing that, Chuck. Right? So know what and then of course you can get into the bigger picture, right? What are the resources? Okay. And now that you know the system, a resource could be a trip to Tallahassee, lobbying your legislator. And then of course, again, as you study, know the resources. What resources do you have to bring with you? Do you have to apply when you're lobbying legislators? And if you don't have a leave behind for the legislator, then you might as well not go. Okay. So you can go on and on with the tools associated with delivering your message and persuading other people to your point of view. You have a lot of resources. And the connection that most people understand is that if you're talking about politics, which we are, in order to wrap your mind around what are the resources available, it would be everything that a political campaign does. Okay, those are kind of, and then think outside the box because there are others. But right now in the world we're living in, we're talking about text message notifications. We're talking about email blasts. We're talking about social media posts. We're talking boosting social media posts, targeted boosting of social media posts, and all of those resources, Chuck. I think that kind of packages up this particular bullet point.
Yes, also another very accessible resource is flsenate.gov. If you want to know what's going on in a lot of the bills, flsenate.gov, flhouse.gov, and you can contact your representatives if you don't know how to do that. And you can read bills, and there's a lot of interaction with our legislators available, and that's something that's available to anybody and everybody.
Let me make a comment on that, Chuck, because that is so true. So, for example, you and I, when we first started doing the legislative analysis going into session this year, we started looking at Nan Cobb, right? The state representative from House District 26, who I ran against in 2024. And Nan Cobb sponsored a legislation that said that kids have to remain in car seats until they're 8 years old. Current law is 5, or until they're 4 feet 9 inches tall. Okay, that is one of Nan Cobb's legislative priorities because she filed the damn bill and she only has a limited number of bills that she can file. So Nan Cobb believes that her time in Tallahassee, the best thing she can do with the resources she's been given, one of the 7 best things that she can do is file legislation calling for children to be required to stay in car seats until they're 8 years old or until they're 4 feet 9. And then you and I tapped into that resource and we said, what principals are hiring lobbyists to lobby for this legislation? And on this particular bill, the American Pediatric Society is a principal supporting that particular legislation. So I would suggest they probably created the legislation and gave it to Nan Cobb to run. I
So,
learned
Mike,
yesterday, let me just finish this real quick. I learned yesterday that the American Pediatric Society supports the genital mutilation of our children, Chuck. So now, if you want to take a look at the resources that are available to you, let's pop over to Nan Cobb's campaign account and see if the American Pediatric Society is contributing to Nan Cobb's career, Chuck.
there we go. Well, we need to move right along, Mike. The next thing you have on our list is things written down come to pass. And I know you say that a lot. Maybe we can just give a little comment there and we can move on.
Again, maybe a letter to Nan Cobb telling her that you think that the American Pediatric Society, who could very well be a donor to her career, is inconsistent with the values of her constituency. Write it down, send it to her, publish it in a newsletter. Even better, mail it to 20,000 voters in Republican primaries, Chuck.
There we go. There we go. So I'm having a little bit of a difficulty with my machine. Every once in a while, things just don't want to clear up for me here. My computer is not helping me.
Call an audible, Chuck. Move on.
There we go. Let's see here. Moving on to the next point, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. Find opportunities to be heard.
Yeah. So that's another thing, right? We go to civic meetings and everyone in the room are our best friends and we agree on 98% of everything we're talking about. But aren't there other civic organizations in the community? Like, for example, for me personally, I spent my entire career, my whole mindset is built around business. So recently, I reestablished, which I never went, I've always been a member over the last many, many years of the South Lake Chamber of Commerce, but I've revitalized my relationship with the South Lake Chamber of Commerce, and they were gracious enough to put me on their public policy committee, which is a great honor. And I will use that opportunity to present my point of view on certain things. Like, for example, we're aligned, the South Lake Chamber of Commerce and the Public Policy Committee at the South Lake Chamber of Commerce and I are aligned on growth management issues. So I'm going to assist the Public Policy Committee at the South Lake Chamber of Commerce on achieving their growth management objectives. And I have a very clear way I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk into my April 8th meeting. I'm going to send over a week before the meeting. I'm going to send over a proposal that I'd like to be on the agenda of the meeting. And then we'll debate my proposal and take a vote. And I believe that I will persuade the South Lake Chamber Public Policy Committee to get behind my point of view and actually put this in front of legislators who can actually get things done, Chuck. So that's one example, but take another. I mean, you could go to the garden club, whatever it is, and I'm in Mount Dora. So there's all kinds of artists organizations and things like that. All kinds of veterans organizations, another one. And just go out and you know what? You're not shoving your ideas down their throat, but you just want to listen to it. Of course, the best way to persuade anyone, Chuck, is not to talk to them. It's to listen to them and listen to what these folks have to say. And once you listen, people really appreciate it when other people listen to them. Now they may be willing to listen to you for about 10% of the time that you listen to them. And that's very productive, fertile time to get your point across. And because you have been so gracious to them, they will be gracious to you. So
Okay.
yes, there's a million civic organizations out there. And rather than spend all of our time in echo chambers with political organizations where everyone in the room agrees with us, let's wander outside and see if we can drop some apple seeds on fertile ground, Chuck.
Well, I think that's your next point, Mike, which is participate in non-political organizations. Do we want to take that and move
No,
on
we
to
can skip it. We just did it. Yeah, we just did it.
Okay, so maybe I can do this on the fly. I don't know why it all of a sudden doesn't want me to do this whole thing all at once, but the next thing we want to talk about is building priorities, prioritizing building a database. So why don't you let us go with that, Mike?
Again, Chuck, it's getting the word out, right? This goes back to know the resources available to you. But you know what? For me personally, I'm walking around. I can just show you, right? Let me just show you real quick. Okay. This is a stack of business cards. Okay. Every time we go out, if we're serious about getting the word out to people, we will collect their information. People have information all the time. So when we go anywhere, everybody at any kind of a civic organization meeting, any people you do business with, the people in your soccer team, soccer moms, all that stuff, harvest their contact information and get it all. Name, address, phone number, email. That's what you need. Name, address, phone number, email. And when you get it, that's not the end. That's the beginning. Okay, now you take time to put it into your contact manager and you build a database. And if you're really sophisticated, you'll categorize that stuff so you can talk to specific groups within your database about specific things at specific times. But this is how you do it. And if you don't do it, then you're basically resigning to failure. Okay. I'm not willing to gather information. And keep in mind, databases can be purchased. Like, for example, for us in politics, we at minimum should have every single phone number and every email address for every registered voter in our county, or certainly in our district, whatever the population you're looking for. But that's something you can buy. Okay. And of course, that means you got to spend some money on it, or, put some time into doing a public record request or things like that. This is so crucial. And the successful people get it, and the people who don't get it are not successful. I can give you example after example of public figures who understand this, and then I can give you lots of examples of public figures or people want to be public figures who don't get it. And the reason they're not public figures is because they don't get it, Chuck. Database, crucial.
There we go. So in our last waning moments, I think this last topic is highly important. Stand boldly.
That's what it's about, and it doesn't mean, Chuck, stand boldly does not mean walk around with your hair on fire. Doesn't mean raising hell at meetings. It means walk into a room, and as soon as you walk into the room, everyone in the room knows what you're about, and you don't have to open your mouth. Just walk into the room, and when any person has sufficiently educated the public as to your value proposition and specific things that you want done, you don't have to open your mouth. All you have to do is be present in the room, and you will change the outcome of events let's just use a meeting as an example. Just your presence in the room will influence the outcome of the event. It may not get you to the finish line. Obviously, I'm not saying don't testify, but I am saying that when any one of us human beings, we owe it to God to carry the character of God into our communities. And we do this in a lot of ways, but when we as a group individually can walk into a room and people say, oh, that's Chuck Benoit, and I know exactly what Chuck Benoit's all about. Just your presence in the room will make a big difference, Chuck. So that's my point on stand boldly. Do not retreat. Your point of view is as good as anyone else's point of view. We all put our pants on in the same way every morning. And just because somebody else has position power does not mean that you have no power. So stand boldly.
There we go. Well, we are out of time. I think I would love for you to give us a final overview of today's message, which is prepared to lead.
The next version will be prepare to win. And if you apply the things we've talked about here today, I would suggest that our movement will win more frequently. Chuck Benoit.
Well, thank you very much, Mike Levine, and thank you all for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic. Like and share the program, please. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.